Hello, I'm Rebecca, and I'm the minister at the First Church in Ipswich here, and I greet you on behalf of the congregation and on behalf of the deacons, and especially Deacon Chris Dorman, who's part of the film crew. And I also greet you on behalf of Dr. Anita Kupris and her beautiful choir, the Labyrinth Choir, which will sing a song for us in a few minutes. It's the end of the season of Novembering, and you can see that the church is adorned with beautiful portraits and pictures of people who've died, and the candles are lit to celebrate them. And we bring them in for the month of November every year to acknowledge them, to feel close to them, to remember them, to honor them. And it's in that spirit that I want to tell you a story about a child who grew up in this church. Her picture is here on the altar. And she had a short, strong, powerful, glorious life. And she sang in the children's choir here. Her favorite song was "It's a Wonderful World," "What a Wonderful World." And she was part of the Sunday school here, and she loved the cookie walk. She was very busy in this church, helping people learn how to live their lives deeply and well. And one of her favorite things to do was to ride her bicycle. And her favorite place to ride her bicycle was in the Morris Funeral Home parking lot. And she always said to her father, if she died, that she wanted her funeral to be in the Morris Funeral Home because she loved that parking lot. And her father took note of that, and she rode her bicycle. And then when she was sick, she would ride her bike as much as she could. She'd go to that place to bike as much as she could, but she wasn't able to bike as much as she'd thought she would. You know, as she continued to grow sicker, and as her life drew close to her death, she would still be teaching us things. She would still be observing things that were important to her and beautiful. I remember one day she took me for a walk with her dog and talked about how much she loved being connected to her dog, how she hoped dogs were in heaven so she could always be friends with her dog. And I said I thought she was exactly right, and I was quite sure that she would always be with her dog and the dogs would be in heaven. And then another time she was playing on the swing set at my house, and her hair was very short from chemotherapy, and she said, "Isn't it delicious how the wind blows through your hair when you're swinging on a swing?" And that was an amazing lesson from her as she was there appreciating the moment and the day so much. You know, when it says in the scriptures, in Psalm 23, that you make me to lie down in green pastures, and this passage from David's Psalms, which I've always thought is about the blessedness of God's company when we're dying and when we're alive, and that it's so natural and kind to have God's company when we die. That Jessie had that in her mind too, this child in the church who lived here and died young. I love to think about the possibilities and gifts that the psalm gives us in terms of our fears and our possibilities as we think about death, but think about it as something so natural and so much a part of all of life truly, not just even humans, all of the creatures of the world's journeys, because we all die. We're all going to die. We're on this path all together, and we all will die at one point. We'll all be together among the dead at one point. And so it's this commonality that people all have, and it's this common pathway that we all get to take, whether we like to embrace that path or whether we're afraid of that path. It's such a huge, normal, natural part of our lives. And what the child of the church knew was that it was such a normal, natural part of our lives. She was always able to get close to that and help other people talk about it. And I love that gift that she gave us, and the gift that the psalm gives us, that there's this normalness in dying, that when we talk about it, open ourselves to it, accept it, get ready, because all of us are dying, then it makes it much easier and more blessed for us as we get closer to that time, that we're ready and we get to set some goals for it. We get to be open with each other about it. We get to celebrate each other's passages. We get to walk along together with each other. Not everybody thinks about it that way. I know Dylan Thomas's poem, "Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night," sets up this description of him being afraid when his father is dying and that he doesn't want his father to die. And of course, we cry and we're sad when death comes to us. And when this child of the church died, we all cried for quite a while. But as the time has gone on and we've been closer to her teachings and closer to the eternal parts of her life, which are, her courage and her appreciation of the world and the ways she lived in the moment and those songs she loved and the gifts that she gave us, we feel less afraid about death and more grateful that we get to live at all. And also more grateful, I think, that these passages that come to us, that come, along the pathway for us, these chances to talk to each other about dying, the chances in our own lives to look with wide open eyes at, as St. Francis said, sister death, to honor that, to acknowledge it, makes our lives, I think, more united and more unified. And I think that's what David meant when he gave us this psalm. You make me to lie down in green pastures. So the pasture is green where we get to lie down. And perhaps greener because we get to be buried in that nice pasture. And perhaps greener because the love of God is there with us. And that our love for God is there in the pasture. And so as I think about all of that, I think about the radiant love of God when we die and when we live, that God's heart of love is so huge and that nothing can separate us from that love, whether we're alive or whether we've died, and that the energetic graciousness of God's heart for us when we die is so extraordinary, just as it is energetic for us when we live. And in that great energy, the majesty and hopefulness of God binds us together, the living and the dead. And there's something quite encouraging about that, I think, and natural about it. Dying is so natural. This is something that child who died knew. And that's something that I'm trying to learn for myself. And it's something that's a great gift for this world, for the church, for the congregation, for the people of this town, that we can accept it, that we can honor it, that this lovely transition could be something perhaps we'd plan for. We'd look forward to it the way we look forward to so many things in our lives and the way we plan for so many things in our lives. Truly, it's one of the most important things we'll do, is die. May those passages for each of us be a blessing and a mercy and a time when the unfolding love of God becomes ever more warm and known and clear and wide open and pleasant for us. So that child who did pick out the parking lot for her funeral home, she did die, and we did have a wonderful funeral for her. And we do still say her name and put her picture here in the church and share her lessons almost all the time. And we do send her such grateful love and honor and joy. And we send God that same love and joy and honor for her life and for our lives. So in conclusion, I thought I would sing you the song Swimming to the Other Side, which is a song the children's choir is learning. And to me, this song says the same thing that the psalm says, that we're all swimming together to the other side of the river, the other side of life. We're all together in this journey between life and death. And we get to be beside each other in it and help each other and honor each other. So this is the glorious song, Swimming to the Other Side, and I sing it in conclusion. We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We're all swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. Thanks. be to God. Amen. Beloved, family and friends, may the peace of the winding road be under your feet. May the peace of the shining stars be over your heads. May the peace of the warm wind be always at your backs. And may the deep peace of the Prince of Peace be with you, body, mind, and spirit, this day and every day. Go in peace. Amen.